What's up, guys? We're back with another Modified Rides podcast. As usual, I'm your host, Brandon Burrell. This week, I have one of the OG guys in the truck scene. If you've ever heard the term Project Indy, the OBS truck, built and owned by Carey Bewley, that's who I got on this week. We're going to dive into a little bit about where he got his start, a little bit about the truck, and some of the challenges that he's currently going through right now. Super good interview with Carey. It's good to finally link up with him and get him on for you guys. So it's episode 101 here. Thanks again for helping me get over 100 episodes. So let's get into Carey's episode and check out what he has to say. All right, like I said, we have Carey Bewley on this week. What's going on, Carey?
How you doing, sir?
Good, good. So you're up in the Indianapolis area?
Yes, sir. I'm just on the west side of Indy, right by the drag strip where you might remember Indy Truck Bash.
Okay.
Right by my house.
It's one I've never made it to. I guess it kind of goes into where the name of the truck behind you, Project Indy, came from that we'll get into.
Yep.
I guess
that truck definitely is based off racing and being in Indianapolis for sure.
Okay. So as always, I always get into how my guests get started into the custom automotive world. How did you get involved with it?
Well, I was born into the body shop business.
Okay.
My dad and uncle repaired semis and painted semis for a living when I was born. So I grew up in a semi body shop.
That doesn't even sound like fun.
Nowadays, no. Back then it was great, but now no.
They're too big. You scaffolding to paint them and
Oh yeah, everything. I mean, the exhaust fan is bigger, the paint guns are bigger, the paint booth is bigger.
Paint guns are bigger too?
Yeah, I have one still that we used years ago that I got two Binks number 7 guns on 20-foot leads off of a 10-gallon pressure pot. A guy on the top of the scaffold, guy on the bottom of the scaffold, and somebody to run them down the side, and they could paint a 53-foot trailer in about 45 minutes.
Oh, wow. See, I've always wondered how that worked with it being that big. I figured it was still the same spray.
They just spray a pattern about 2 foot big. So they're pretty awesome. They'll lay some material down.
So I guess going from a gun like that to a regular paint gun, it probably took a little bit of a learning curve to figure out the thickness and all that.
It was a bit of a change. Fortunately, though, our business, or my dad and uncle's business, they worked for a place at painting the semis. But then when I was just getting into high school, that place burnt down. And so my dad built a 2.5 car garage at his house. And that's where my dad and uncle started what was called Bewley Brothers Custom Painting. And they started doing rust repair and race car fiberglass repair. That was a big business back then.
Did they have you working with them as a kid, like just helping around the shop?
Oh yeah, I grew up in the shop. I was there all the time. I would leave high school and go straight over there. What was pretty cool is when the business was at my parents' house, I would get off the school bus and the driveway would be lined with fiberglass race car parts. And I mean 20, 30, 40 parts. And that was, if I wanted to go play in the neighborhood, I had to have work done before my dad and uncle got home from their day job. So I would recruit the neighborhood kids to help me prep race car parts so I could get out and play.
So that wasn't their day job, was working on that. That was their after hours at the shop at the house.
At the house, and because they were doing the semi stuff during the day, and knowing that they were wanting to start something different, my dad started building a garage at the house. But then the semi shop burnt down, so they had to go to this full time. So they were still doing some mechanical work and different stuff for other people during the day, and then be working at the house during the day and evening. And that was my job.
So I guess you, growing up in that, you didn't have to go to some kind of paint and body school. You probably learned more firsthand than you ever would in school.
School of hard knocks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been to school for any of this. Just self-taught, learning from my dad, my uncle, the people around me. Yeah, it was I was taught by them. So fortunately, I didn't have to go to any schooling. I didn't have to go to any trade school, anything like that. I had enough experience. I was lowering my own vehicles in high school.
Then had you worked anywhere else other than in the body shop industry? And I mean, till recently.
No. Even in high school, when I had the shop, I was still going and helping a friend at another body shop in between everything. Um, the only thing I had going on though was I raced go-karts professionally from the time I was 5 till I was 21.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
So I had that going on at the house also. I mean, we traveled all over the United States racing go-karts. We had a motorhome trailer, several carts, motors. Our engine builder traveled with us.
Is that
Um,
still as big as it was? 'Cause I know when we were kids that was big, but is it still as big now?
Bigger now than ever.
Really?
Man, these guys got semis showing up to a go-kart race.
I guess if you're not in that world, you don't know how the ins and
Right.
outs of that work. I just remember, as a kid, you'd see the race stuff, and you're like, "Oh, this is super cool," because one of your friends did it. In that case, you were the one that did it, but
Yep.
I didn't know it was still as big as what it was back then.
Oh, absolutely. I would say 3, 4 times bigger than it was back then. It is truly a breeding ground for the race car drivers that we have of today, of getting started young and doing things like that. But what it did for me is the mechanical side of things. I had to maintain them carts. Let me back up. When we went to a race, we went there to win.
Yeah,
We didn't go there to just race. Okay, so this was a job. I mean, them go-karts come back from the race, they were stripped down to a bare chassis, inspected, put back together again in between every race. When I was in eighth grade, my high school used to fax homework to the hotels that we were at for me to do because I missed so much school.
that right there just said you're old if your high school had to fax stuff.
Right. Yeah. I earned every one of these white hairs, I promise you.
I don't even know if fax exists anymore. So
I don't have one. I've not used one in years, so probably not. But
but
I just try to do that to not necessarily date myself, but just to let people know that back then there was ways around getting what you needed in life.
yeah.
You know, um, Nowadays, if you tried to miss as much school as I did, no way. You'd have to be homeschooled or something and go through all kinds of hoops.
But I
So
guess being in the Indianapolis area, that the racing and the go-kart stuff was probably bigger there than it was here in Asheville.
absolutely, absolutely, and we have multiple tracks in Indiana and surrounding states. But I traveled all the way Texas, New York, Florida. I went to San Jose, California to race. I mean, we went
Dang.
all over the place. So um, it wasn't your normal. You know how people nowadays, if you say I'm going to a car show, they think you're just going to the local park to kind
Yep.
of hang out and have a soda and talk to some friends.
Look at some crybaby dolls.
Right. Same thing. The go-karts racing has their levels, just like the car shows do. You've got some local stuff, but then you've got some huge stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Back then it was big, but you didn't have the internet to, spread it around. You had to
Publicize
really
it.
be in the scene and in the know.
Did you ever
And
think you would become a race car driver starting in that world?
that was always my goal. My goal was always to race the Indy 500. I traveled racing go-karts with Tony Stewart. We both grew up together
Oh
racing. His
wow.
dad still lives down the street from me. So always had a goal of doing that, but I decided I wanted to build mini trucks. And
There's
it
where you went
really
wrong right there.
it is. I was doing very well in racing. Several championships and had some opportunities to possibly move into a midget, things like that, but it was money based and I didn't have the money and we were still in the body shop business and I just kept looking at all these vehicles wanting to customize things and cut them up and do stuff and that just really was my driving force to quit racing and do the business, but I had to make a decision because it was that busy.
When did
um,
you make that transition from racing to doing the custom stuff?
to do it on a full-time level was just right when I was just out of high school.
Okay.
um I tinkered with the go-karts for a while I was doing the business till I was 21, and then when I quit racing, the business was really getting into full swing.
What made you decide to start your own business in high school then? And you said before we come on, you were what, a sophomore when you started?
Yeah. Yeah, so my dad and uncle had the shop, and I was working there, and my dad was tired of being self-employed. So he went to FedEx to be a mechanic on all the ground support equipment.
Yeah.
My dad and uncle both had their ASE license, so they had opportunities. But my dad was just tired of being self-employed, so he went to FedEx to be a mechanic, and I took over his spot in the business, and it was me and my uncle that just took it from there.
And then when did you change the name?
I changed the name in 90. Let's see, I graduated high school in 92. So I changed the business name in 93, 94 because I built Project Indy in 95,
Okay.
late 95.
And for those that don't know, what was the name of that business you started back then?
Bewley's Body Works.
Okay.
My dad and uncle had it as Bewley Brothers Custom Paint and Fiberglass, and then I changed it to Bewley's Body Works.
Were you in the same shop at your parents' house doing it?
Oh yeah, we started there and then moved into a shop in our town. And then when my dad was still there when he decided to go to FedEx, is when they moved from a building in our small town to a building right by the drag strip, like literally walking distance from the drag strip. And so we were in that building for 15 years, probably close to 15 years before we moved into we I had three buildings total. The one that I'm talking about, then we moved into another one, and then we moved into another one. Actually, four buildings because the last building was in Schumacher's place too. So
It just kept growing bigger and bigger.
yeah, at one time we had 30 employees.
Wow, that's a pretty decent sized shop. Now, were you focused on collision repair stuff, or were you doing just custom stuff?
Mainly custom stuff, rust repair, race cars, a lot of race cars, drag race cars, midget sprint cars, Indy cars. Um, all that was a big deal, and it was right in our town. So we're in the racing capital of the world, so there's
Yeah.
so much going on here, and a lot of people move from out of state to Indy. If you're racing midget sprint cars, things like that, this is the place to be. Half of our town is race shops.
Oh wow.
That more drag racing, midget sprint cars, and Indy cars in this town than you'll find in any other town.
I guess like if you go more towards like Mooresville over by Charlotte, you're getting into more of the NASCAR stuff
Yeah,
everywhere.
like you won't find any NASCAR stuff up here. There's nothing here. Now you find rally racing here. You find the Indy cars, the NASCARs, or no NASCARs, sprint cars, Indy cars, but no NASCAR, which is crazy. But it's just you just don't see it here.
Now, when did you first, I guess, get into heavy custom stuff? Because if you're doing just race stuff and the fiberglass stuff, when did you first dive into? All right, let's do something crazy custom.
Project Indy was the first thing I really did.
Okay.
And so, just to give you a quick overview of how that happened, we painted an Indy car for Firestone, and it was going to SEMA on display in the Firestone booth in 1994.
Okay, so I guess let's back up onto that. How did you get into, if you're painting SEMA vehicles at that age? How did you get linked up with that? Where big companies like Firestone are like, all right, you're good enough. Let's have you paint our SEMA build.
Fortunately enough, we'd been doing it. My uncle had connections from being around doing stuff, the fiberglass
So that
repair.
just carried over.
Yeah, so just some of those connections just carried over, and I've never been afraid to talk to anybody. So it just spiraled from there with a quickness. Um, they were happy with what we were doing, and we also were able to haul the car out to SEMA.
Okay.
And so they paid us to take it out.
Now, I guess that was your first adventure into the SEMA world.
Yep, that was the first time ever being there, and I was blown away.
And did you know, I guess being in the race world, did you know what SEMA was?
I had an idea.
Because
Just
before
an
internet.
idea.
So
Yeah, just from talking to old timers, talking to racing guys, talking to a few car show guys, you see a couple photos here or there, but
yeah.
I had no idea what I was walking into, when I got there, for sure.
So what kind of paint job did you put on that car?
It was red, white, and blue Firestone logos and some stripes on it. It was nothing over the top. It was just their Firestone show car.
Okay.
And it was based out of Indianapolis too. So all those people were around here. When you were getting Indy cars painted, there's only let's be real, back then there was only a handful of people painting them that could know what to do to them and back then they were made out of fiberglass too. Now they're made out of carbon fiber.
Yeah.
So my uncle was extremely good at fiberglass. Still, he's still around today, but just getting older.
Yeah.
But that's what really got us into some of that, is his ability to recreate and repair all this fiberglass stuff. It kept so many people from having to buy new parts. And like the SCCA world of racing, when I said that there was a line of fiberglass parts on my driveway, that's what it was from. It was from SCCA spec race cars.
Okay.
And there's people around here that have 10, 20 cars, and they rent them out to people for race weekends. So doctors, lawyers, whatever that want to be that weekend race car driver can rent a ride and go race.
I feel like I'm in the wrong business because I don't have
Right.
10 to 20 rental cars.
It's a hell of a business. And so we had, I don't want to say contract, but we had the hookup with them to repair their cars. Well, most people that are renting a car don't have a driving ability. Okay, they're doing it because they have the money to do it.
So there's where the repair comes in.
Right. So every weekend there was a line of parts waiting to be repaired. And that business really took off and grew us into a lot of fiberglass stuff. I mean, at one point we had a contract with Amtrak trains, and they were dropping off semi loads of fiberglass toilets for us to repair.
That's
Semi loads. Pay the bills.
shitty week at work, I guess, then, huh?
That's right. That's right. It's amazing what you'll do for $1 when you have overhead and responsibilities.
So you said the Firestone car led you into Project Indy?
Yeah, so what had happened there is we get to SEMA, and we have to go through the process of help getting this car put inside. We didn't just transport it. We helped get it into the booth, get it set up, all that, and then they paid us to be there for the week. So I got to just walk around meeting people. I mean, it was very overwhelming.
Semi fresh out of high school.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was in shock for the whole week, really. I mean, it was something us Indiana boys had never really seen,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but while I was there, I started talking to people, House of Color, Sir Michael's, Firestone owned Bridgestone also, so there was my tires for the Project Indy. So I
Yeah.
started going around talking to people, going, "Hey, if I build a vehicle and I bring it back here next year, would you be interested?" I did the Firestone IndyCar right over here in the Firestone booth. I'm from Indiana, Nobody knew me, nobody, nothing. So I got lucky that Sir Michael's sponsored the truck, and they're the ones that put it on display at SEMA for the first time. So I had an agreement with them as I was building the truck.
And what year was this?
This was 1995.
And what a lot of people don't realize is when we talk about sponsorships on today's scale, back, because I started 96, 97 talking to sponsors. So it was about that same time. The way companies worked with people then is way different than they do now.
Yeah, not
Now they
even
want
not
you to
even
have
close.
so many followers. They want you to do this and guarantee that. Back then, if you had that reputation or something to show them, then they immediately got on board because that was their advertising.
Yeah, and back then, you could do a business deal on a handshake.
Yep.
You obviously you can't do that now.
Yep.
But back then they trusted us. We just got lucky that all these people trusted us.
And that was before I think people started burning some of these companies,
Absolutely.
Getting all the free parts and then disappear. And I think
Yep.
that's when we got to have a proposal and a rendering and all that stuff came into play.
Yeah. So that's how we got up to that. Is I didn't have a vehicle yet. I was just poking around.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have good credit. So I went to the dealership to try to buy this truck, and they wouldn't sell it to me. I didn't have good enough credit. And I'm talking about Project Indy.
Yeah.
But they said, "I'll lease it to you." I'm like, "What? Lease it? What do you mean? I can drive it home today?" Yeah. Yeah. Where do I sign? So I leased that truck and literally drove it straight from the dealership to my shop and tore it apart with 80 miles on it. I never even drove it home. I never took it out. I drove it straight to the shop and tore it apart. I already had a plan.
Did you
And
read
I
the
already
fine
had.
print on the lease that said that,
Oh yeah, I did. I read it.
you knew you were going to buy the lease out though at the end of the
At the end of the day, they let me drive off the lot with a brand new truck, and I was starting to fulfill my dream of building a truck.
shame on you.
Yeah, that fine print didn't matter to me, really, to be honest. But I knew no matter what, I would be taking care of the truck and paying it off or whatever I had to do. I did have some hiccups along the way. As far as financially, I got behind a little bit. They were looking for it. I left it in California for 6 months at what the hell was that shop's name that built all the Astro vans, California Customs.
Okay. Yeah, all the
I
graphics on the vans and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
They were building those and shipping them to Japan or what?
Japan,
Yeah.
right. So that after SEMA, I was out there and they wanted to hang on to my truck because they thought they were going to try to sell it to Japan. So I left it in California with them for 6 months in their showroom and had some offers, but nothing got real solid. And so at the end of the day, I went back and got it and
Yeah.
brought it back home. I actually sent somebody out to get it. I didn't go get it. I sent somebody to go get it and bring it back. And that was 96, 97.
So fresh after it was done.
Oh yeah. Yep. That's when everybody was talking about, oh, it'll go to Japan, it'll get that big money, it'll get 50, 100,000,
And
And
that was common for that style of truck
yeah.
back in that time. So
Yep.
people that weren't at our age back then, you didn't know about that. And we only knew about it because it was almost like folklore here on the East Coast. They're building this and shipping it to Japan because we didn't see the West Coast stuff.
That's right. And I just got fortunate that I seen it in person, and I got to meet those people at SEMA and talk to them. And the other side of it is I took my truck to SEMA, and then the cover shot in Truck and Magazine was done in Los Angeles in the mountains. So they asked me to leave SEMA, after SEMA, drive to LA and do a photo shoot. So I spent a week in LA after SEMA.
After a week to get there, a week for SEMA, and then so you're 3 weeks off at that point.
That's right. Yeah. I've been gone on the road 3 weeks. And then another week to drive home.
Yeah.
So while I was there that week, I started visiting shops. I want to see what am I up against? Who am I competing against? What trends are out here? Because obviously everything comes from California and works its way across. So if I can get a jump on learning and seeing some trends, what can I do?
Back, yeah.
Yeah. So that week I spent out there learning and making connections, and that's when I met Sean Mahaney and just a bunch of people from the past. Brian McCormick, all them guys.
Who shot the trucking cover?
Wes Allison.
Okay, he's one of the goats for sure. He is.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I followed him as a photographer. I've followed his work for years.
Yep, and when I was told he was going to shoot it, I just was like, what? Back then I knew he was the man.
Yeah.
But they went through having me come to LA. They hired a professional model. They had a
that you couldn't
location.
do in today's world.
No, yeah, not at all. So all those experiences were pretty darn cool. I got to experience a lot really fast. And especially being from Indiana, these are all, we didn't have video cameras back then to document this stuff. We did, it's just all memory now.
Yeah.
So
we had one of those 110 cameras back then.
Yeah, that big brick that you carried around. Yeah. My dad used to video my go-kart racing with one of them big old bricks.
What now did the truck look like it does now when you took it to SEMA with the paint and everything on it?
Exactly like this.
Okay. So where did the layout for that paint job? Because that is a super unique paint job that set that truck apart. Like we said before we come on recording, on the East Coast, that was the truck when it come to. We didn't know it was called an OBS back then, but when that rolled through, it stood out because it was so different than everything else on the East Coast out here.
Well, I was a mini trucker at heart, but I've always been a bigger guy and just don't fit in mini trucks that well. But I also have always towed trailers everywhere. I always need a way to tow a trailer. So that's why I bought a full-size truck, knowing I could still tow with it and I could fit in it. But when I got that truck, knowing I was from Indiana and the Indy 500 is right down the street, my grandparents work at the Indy 500. I mean, it's a big part of our life. So I knew I wanted to do something with the checkers and racing themed and all that. Back then we had just had the Indy Pace trucks come out, in 93. Yeah. So it was still fresh on my mind of, man, I want to make my version of a Pace truck. And that's where this came about, this is my version of a Pace truck. And I had a friend, Ronnie Thompson, who helped me do the rendering to get it into visual. And we did a rendering back in the day of it, and then we painted it.
Probably a hand-drawn rendering back then.
Hand-drawn to scale. So all the lines that are on the truck line up to the lines on the rendering.
Now, being that was painted in the mid 90s, you didn't have these printers where you could print a sticker with the squares cut out in it to spray and then untape it. And how fun was that
Luckily,
to tape those off?
luckily, the being in the IndyCar painting and racing, the decals machines were available, so I was able to have the checkers pre-cut in a stencil. Now I still had to lay them and do everything, and all the other things were all freehand, but we were able to get with a race team that had a vinyl cutter and cut those checkers for me so we could
Super rare
speed.
back then.
Oh yeah, I mean it was crazy technology that we were like, this isn't gonna work. What do you mean? And so we tried it and it really worked. But that was, that was a long, long time ago.
Yeah.
And to do all those through the door jams and the, all the hinges, the hinge pins, everything is the exact same on the outside of the truck as the inside of the truck.
At that point, was that the furthest you had ever taken a paint job on a truck?
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So yeah, the technology of the vinyl plotter, so to speak, was way ahead of its time, and getting the vinyl to lay right so we could spray it and understand how to use. We were just teaching ourselves as we went along. So there's flaws in that paint job. I can pick them all out, but it gets to be so busy nobody sees it.
Yeah.
There's so much going on there.
Airbrushing and all that stuff.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Now, I guess that doing a paint job like that on a truck, I'm sure opened doors for you in the area for customers, right?
Oh yeah, for what really brought on was the customizing, but also helmets, motorcycles, and race cars. Those it really ramped up when that truck came out. And so with that being said, we sorry, I lost track there for a second.
Oh, where the customers come in for all the
Oh yeah,
custom stuff.
the custom stuff. Yeah, that at that time too, I was just out of racing go-karts, and I had done that for a long time, so I had a lot of friends still in the racing community, go-karts, all that stuff. So the race car stuff really started stepping up, but then those people that were racing go-karts started moving up into different race cars, and then it just fed itself. And then you get the reputation, and next thing you know, there's a line of people waiting for cars. And so after I did my truck, it really ramped up the mini trucks, things like that, like Donnie Babb from Gauge Magazine, his
Yeah.
Mazda.
Yeah.
We did that next. And then his a friend of ours, David Figg, had an Isuzu Amigo that we did at the same time. And so with that being said, it started the air ride thing, it started the custom painting thing. And that's the one thing about my truck, the air ride. When I did the air ride on that, there wasn't kits made or anything.
Yeah.
I got fortunate enough that Firestone that makes those airbags is in Indianapolis. So I got hooked up with them and was able to go to their warehouse, and I'm just taking tape measures and measuring bags. And I had a guy walking with me going, yeah, that'll hold this amount of weight and that'll hold this amount of weight. Here's how much it grows. And so that truck right there has a full prototype system on it that we built ourselves. And actually nobody knows this, but in the photo shoot for the cover, my right front airbag got pinched in the control arm and blew, and there is a 2x4 wedged in the right front control arm.
Typical mini trucker move.
Right. Didn't have time to get miles on it, and the bag expanded bigger than we expected, and it just got a little pinch in it. So all that was trial and error.
We've been at a show and a buddy blew a bag and went to Hobby Lobby. It was the closest store and bought like a foot long 2x4 for like $8 because, Lowe's or Home Depot or anything wasn't close enough to us. So,
yep. It's crazy what we'll do. Yeah. It's crazy what you do.
So when did you step into doing more trucks than race cars?
That was probably, let's see, my truck went back to SEMA a second time in 99.
Who for that time?
MTX.
Okay.
Took it out there, and Weld built me a set of one-off 20s for it at that time too. And it was inside. The first time it was outside, right at when Sir Michaels took it the first time, it was setting right outside the front door.
Okay.
When you walk in, I mean, it was front and center, last truck you passed before you open the door. Killer spot. In 99, it was inside MTX's booth inside.
I'm waiting to hear back from MTX right now because they mentioned last year at SEMA about possibly using the Blazer for SEMA this year. It's just waiting game at this point. So
I would love to get back in touch with them to see if they would be interested in helping me put the stereo back in the truck the way it was. Because when I'm sure we'll get to this, but when the truck went to Mexico, the stereo did not come back with the truck. So I would love to put it all back like it was.
Gotcha.
As far as
I can link you up with the guys out there for sure. So
I mean, it went around and did. I mean, it was in many, many booths for MTX over the years at Nopi and Style and Concepts, Sport Truck Nationals. I mean, I traveled around a lot with MTX when Sarge was there.
now, uh, think while we're on the topic of customer stuff, you mentioned a couple that you'd done that were pretty high profile. Do you remember all the high profile stuff that you've turned through the shop?
Probably
I
not
know
all
that
of them.
one of the
But
S10s that I recently ran was one that I guess you had painted.
Josh Cyrus.
Yeah, with the wood flames and stuff on it.
Yep. We did that truck like 15 years ago.
Yeah, and then he just never finished it.
Right. And he'd just been plugging away. And
And I remember I saw him at the what was it, a Spark show or something, and I was like, went to talk to him. I was like, "Has this truck ever been shot?" And he's like, "No." And I'm like, "Well, hasn't it been done forever?" Because I remember seeing it at shows. He goes, "Well, it was done, but it wasn't done."
Right.
So
Yeah. And Trent did the interior in it. I think was the last of it to get wrapped up.
yeah,
To talk about some other trucks, like we said earlier, Donnie Babb from Gage Magazine, his Mazda, the red Mazda with the wood grain on it. We did that one.
Which is an iconic truck if looking back at it.
It is, I guess. The history here is pretty crazy. Let's see, a Suburban called Big Wood.
Yeah,
The orange one.
orange one. Yep, that was
Yep.
for his too, wasn't it?
That was a guy that worked with him.
Okay, that's right. Yeah. Now
Yep.
it recently popped back up, didn't it?
Yeah.
Like it had been,
And that's here in my hometown.
It'd been buried for a while or something, hadn't it?
Just in his garage, covered up. Looks like the day he parked it.
Like 20 years or something, wasn't it?
Yep.
I remember
It's
that.
amazing to me. I'm finding a ton of vehicles that I did in the past or that we did in the past that are still around like the day they rolled out of the shop. I bet we could rattle off about 15 of them.
Now it's crazy that was such a high profile vehicle, and then it just disappears and comes back looking the same.
Yeah, it's not to toot my own horn, but it's just a testament of we were doing things right and
Yep.
making them last. Back in the day, you'd always hear, "Oh man, you're so expensive," and this and that, and it's like we want to do it right. We're not here to half-ass. And to see all this stuff 20, 30 years later, and it still looks like it did, proud moment.
Now you were also you said you were doing air ride and stuff at the shop too, or you just doing the
Oh yeah,
work?
air ride, body drops, suicide doors, anything.
Okay.
Anything.
Now I know. So you said you closed the shop about 10 years ago.
Yep.
So how long were you open? So that was, I do the math here.
25 years.
So I know things have drastically changed in the last 10 years, but how did you see you're talking about people saying expensive, change from the time you started to the time you closed it?
Man, price of body shop materials and prices of billet wheels. That'll tell you everything.
Yeah.
It's crazy the cost of things. Back then when we were charging 10 to 12, $15,000 for a paint job, it felt like we were charging $1 million.
Now, what I know is your truck, but what would Project Indy have been back in '95 if a customer said, "I want this paint job"? Because I guess it was black to begin with.
Yeah, it was an original black truck, but we did go through and shave all the body and do all that, and then we painted it back black. Then did all the.
Okay.
The other thing of that truck that most people don't know is it was painted in 24 hours.
Oh wow!
I had a crew of 5 guys, and no paint booth. It was in a room, and it had a salamander heater in there.
Wow!
And 24 hours, and then the next day I drove it with wet clear on it. You could smell it drying. Drove it from Indy to Richmond for the American Sport Truck Association show, and made it there on Saturday afternoon to debut it.
But what would that have costed?
That would cost back then about 15 grand just for the paint job.
That with body work and stuff too?
Yeah.
Now, what would that equate to now in today's numbers?
You're probably 70.
I was expecting more than that.
I'm trying to be conservative here a little bit, but I want to say 70, but I in my gut I'm thinking closer to 100 because you're gonna have $25,000 in materials.
Oh yeah.
and that hadn't even got into suspension, anything. That's just
Yeah,
body
just
and paint.
paint. Yeah, yeah.
And there's no rust repair there. There's none of that. You don't need to replace floors or anything. This is all just customizing and painting.
A brand new vehicle.
So a brand new vehicle. Yeah. And nowadays it's just everything is so expensive and inflated from where we were. But back then it's the same. Everything was expensive then too.
I still
It's
love
all
the people that
relative.
they're like, oh, I can spend $3,000 on a paint job. I'm like, you can spend $3,000 on the color, not even the
That's
clear, the
that's
primer,
right. It costs $3,000 to sand and buff a vehicle nowadays.
at least, if not more.
So right. So yeah, it's tough now. And then you see the things that are at the shows now, and the new vehicles that are coming out, and the paint jobs, and wow, just
Yeah.
wow. For somebody like me, just knowing how that shit's done, knowing the process, all that stuff. Wow, there's a lot of stuff out there being done,
Now you
spending serious money.
now you said you closed the shop. Did you completely close it, or did anybody take over where you were at?
No, I closed it. I went through a wicked divorce with 5 kids, and I closed it up.
How many employees
I
did you have at that time?
I whittled down to 5, and then at the end it was just me.
Okay.
Um, I painted one last funny car for Don Schumacher Racing. That's where I went from the really big building down to a 10,000 square foot building inside a race team, Don Schumacher Racing. It has all the Army funny cars or Army nitro top fuel cars, and then the Valvoline funny car and all that stuff. We painted all that stuff, but I painted one last car for him in there, and then that was done. And then it took me a year to get the business closed and building emptied, and you know going through the divorce and all. It was just nightmare.
But you said now you're still in the automotive industry,
I'm actually an insurance adjuster. So when you crash your car or whatever, I'm the guy that comes out, takes photos, puts an estimate together, and deals
which I
with
guess
the.
with your background, you completely understand how that works. So
Yeah, this was the best transition I could figure out to use my knowledge and skills to still make money, but not have to use my body.
yeah.
Because just getting old, and just I can't do what I used to do. And my kids are, they're stepping into this world, and having a blast with it, and so that's the big thing for me, is just preaching them, take care of your body.
Yeah. I mean,
you
I
know
rolled drinks for 25 years. So yeah, there's days I wake up still and I'm still hobble through. And it's like my hand is from holding a hand truck for all that time.
yep,
Half days my hands won't work. So
yep.
I get it as well. One of the reasons I quit. I'm like, I'm not going to do this till I'm 60. There's no way.
You can't. I mean, at our age, we were raised as you work yourself to death. You don't take time off. You don't do vacations. You don't. It's just you work, work, work. Well,
That kids now don't understand.
not at all. Not at all. And I feel fortunate. My 2 boys work their ass off. They have a great work ethic. But you do see people around, and it's just like, man, how are they going to make it in life? And on the other side of things, with my insurance adjusting job, I deal with some adults that you go, how the hell did you make it this far in life? So it goes both ways.
Now you mentioned like your dad got tired of working for himself and worked for somebody. Did you feel almost the same thing when you were working for yourself? Now you're working for somebody. Was that a similar transition for you?
It was tough. It was very tough. But I'll tell you this: the stress of being self-employed, and the stress of making
Oh, I
sure
get
that
it.
all these families that work for you are eating and doing everything, it it weighed on me. And I didn't come from a rich family. I've never had a bunch of money in the bank or anything. I've had to work for it always, no matter how big the shop was or how small. Um, we had to always work for it and work hard for it. I never had bank loans. I never had lines of credit, nothing. We had to earn it every day. So that's all I know, is I worked myself to death. I just, that's the way we had to do it.
Well, on the subject of changing things around, what changed with you to make you want to sell Project Indy?
Interesting.
And people that don't know the story, just because he has a truck now, don't mean it's been always with you. You sold it at one
Right.
point and got it back. So, what made you want to sell it? Just ready for the next build?
Yeah, basically. So I sold it in 2000. In 99, I got a Ford Excursion from Ford for SEMA.
One of the dollar
And I
vehicles.
wanted to, wanted to build, yeah, a dollar vehicle. Got it for $1, and I wanted to build that, so I needed to sell Project Indy to open up some funds.
I didn't realize you had one from them. Do they even
Yeah,
still do the dollar vehicles?
what's that?
Do they even still do the dollar vehicles?
I don't believe so. No. And my Excursion was the first one on the cover of a magazine. It was on the cover of Off Road. It was lime green and orange. But I sold Project Indy to fund that and the fund my trip to Vegas for
Yeah.
SEMA, because I knew it was going to be a long trip.
What year did that go?
That went in 2000.
Okay.
No, wait. It went in 99
Who was that?
because that's when the Excursion was brand new and they were just debuting them.
Well, you said the Indy was there in '99 for MTX.
Yes. So let me do this math here for a minute. It was 2000. It was the year after Project Indy was there at MTX.
Okay.
So 2000 we took it.
And who did it
And
go
we
for?
What's that?
Who did it go for?
EC that
I don't
made all
even
the
think they
clear
have
lights.
business anymore.
No, Brian Horowitz was his name that owned that place. And I got to be great friends with him over the years too,
Yeah.
which was crazy. But yeah, they took it out there, and it was outside in a front lot. And but that's why I sold Project Indy to fund that. And then we got that truck. It was on the cover of Off Road. And then like a year later, year and a half later, I redid the truck, the Excursion, and painted it black with chrome illusion tribal designs all over it. Then my buddy wanted it and bought it and took it to Costa Rica.
Oh wow.
And then realized it was too big for over there, and then sent it back, and I bought it back from him. So, and then that truck sold and went to St. Louis. And then, from what I hear, somebody tried to put a stereo in it and shorted it out and burned it to the ground.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how long were you without Project Indy?
So I sold that in like 99, 2000, and been looking for it ever since 2018. We found it in Monterrey, Mexico.
And we talked before we come on. That's probably my favorite episode of OLP. So if you guys want to listen to the story of how the truck came back, it is one of the wildest stories. Go back to OLP episode, you said 77?
77, yeah.
Go back to 77. I remember listening to it, and it's like you think the story's going to go one way, and it takes a completely another turn. That is the wildest story of anybody I've known that's ever got a vehicle back, and I highly recommend to go listen to that episode on Carey getting Project Indy back.
Thank you. That was definitely a crazy time in our life. It's a wild story. You could never script it. Everything is documented because I didn't speak the language, so everything is in WhatsApp, Messenger, text message. So when you listen to that podcast, all these dates, times, the events that happened, everything is all documented. And when I did that podcast, I happened to have a timeline of it all just wrote down from that. So it is a wild story.
We won't dive into all that because it's a long story that's well worth listening to. So go listen to that.
Yeah, please.
So what kind of condition was the truck in when you got it back?
Just missing, they had changed the hood, the wheels, and taken the stereo out of it. Other than that, everything was exactly like it was when I sold it.
It wasn't beat, it wasn't scratched up, and
now I when I got it back, I did some paint correction and then ceramic coated it, but I did not repaint anything. All the graphics. Yeah, we did the hood, the grill, the front bumper, and the bed cover.
Okay.
The heat and sun in Mexico just killed the fiberglass. But when I got it back, I had a cowl induction hood on it instead of my Oldsmobile 442 hood.
Yeah.
And we tarried along and made about 50 of those hoods. Well, Aaron Lynch in Ohio happened to have one. So when I got my truck back, we traded. And so I got the first weekend my truck was back, it had a hood back on.
Now, did you have to redo the interior in it?
No, still the same interior.
Really? I thought that surely had to be redone because Tweed, you'd think that many years of use, it didn't. Now, did it have?
Now you can see some abuse on it. There, if you really look, you can see some discoloration and some seams here and there that aren't the best. But
that's the story.
How
many miles have they put on it since you?
Just over 40,000
in 18 years.
Yes.
So it must have been for a while.
It did. And what was crazy is the guy I ended up getting it from sent me a picture of it in, I guess, what they would call their garage in Mexico. and it was basically a room, dusty, and they had picnic table chairs and shit sitting around it, and we're eating tacos on the bed cover with a cat sitting on the bed cover. So the best way I could describe it is I felt like somebody that got the vehicle treated it like they would a Corvette.
Okay.
Drive it on nice days, keep it in the garage, because
Yeah.
it's got some bumps and bruises on it. You can see where they've backed into something and something's hit it inside, but the graphics, there's so much going on, you don't see the damage. You got to really look for it.
Okay.
But yeah, it just was crazy how they sent me photos and the way they abused it, so to speak. But when it came back, man, it's got 90, I think we're at like 96,000 miles on it.
Which is
And that is
super low for what is it, a 95, 94?
96.
Oh, 96. Super
Yep.
low for a 96.
Yeah, and I got this early in mid 95 because it was the new model year for the Vortec motor and the rounded dash.
Yeah.
So they came out a little early. So I got it in September of 95.
Okay. So, and you still, I see you at shows all over and stuff with it. So you still are pretty active with it. I guess you
Oh,
trailer
yeah.
it and not drive it everywhere
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, I trailer it to the shows and then we'll cruise it around at the show and stuff, but we trailer it back and everybody's like, "Oh, you got to drive that thing, you got to drive it." Look, I'm an insurance adjuster. I see all this crazy shit on the roads on a daily. I hear the stories. The truck is only original one time.
Yeah.
Could it be redone and repaired? No, absolutely it could. But it's only original one time. And all the bumps and bruises on it tell stories.
Yeah.
I know I'll never go win best of show with this truck. I know I'm fine with that. I look at it as history, my history for my kids, me, for people like yourself that remember this vehicle from way back in the day.
Yep.
If it brings a smile to somebody's face, then I'm winning. I
I
don't
think
have to drive it everywhere.
I think the first time I saw it in person was, I can't remember what the guy's name did the show. It was at a show in Virginia, I believe, or Myrtle Beach one.
Myrtle Beach.
Might have been Myrtle Beach because I guess I still had my CRX then, maybe. I don't know. I just remember it pulling through and I was like, oh, wow, look at that. And
Yeah, and
everybody
that's
in the
where
club was like, that's Project Indy.
that's crazy. See, that's just crazy to me. Like when I debuted that truck at the American Sport Truck Nationals, everybody thought we were from California. The truck, it has that style.
Yeah, for sure. And
Um,
back then, it definitely did.
for sure. And I wanted that. But it was crazy that everybody thought we were from California and then they look at the license plate and I'm like, "No, I'm just some dude from Indiana, man. I just got lucky."
Well,
So,
looking back at what all you've done when you had your shop, though, as a shop owner, building not necessarily just the race car stuff, but even the truck stuff you've done, is there something you look back and go, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z different with the shop?
yeah. Yeah, for sure. I wish I would have controlled the growth a little better. I wish I would have definitely did different with finances. I wasn't the best with the money.
It seems a
With
lot
the
of people that are as good as you are with the paint stuff, they always struggle with the shop, like running it versus
Yeah,
working for somebody.
yeah. The I enjoyed the business side of things, the networking, the talking to people, selling the job, going through the job. I love getting in somebody's mind and figuring out what they want and trying to build their dream. I truly love all that. But the actual day to day running of the business and the finances and the insurance and the snow removal and people cleaning the showroom windows, glass. I mean, all those
Yeah.
day to day little things that you don't think about really, really, really add up.
I think that's the same thing. Like when I had Ryan Evans on, he's had his own shop 2 or 3 times, but it's like he's more comfortable working for somebody, so he don't have to deal with that, and he can
Yep.
just focus on the painting aspect of it.
It does pull you in a million different directions, and it does not allow you to be 100% in the areas that you want to be 100% in. And a good example of that is my kids are finding that out now as they've started their own shop,
What's that
and
shop called?
it's called Bewley's Garage.
So he's
And
still keeping the family name involved for third
yeah,
generation now.
yeah, and they even basically used the same logo I had and took the bodyworks out of it and put garage in it.
Nice.
So it's definitely proud dad moment. Um, but they're learning now to they're trying to juggle their day and their time and be as efficient as possible with working on the cars, but dealing with the customers and the walk-in people, and the balancing act of all these hats you have to wear is very difficult. And back then, I never went to school for any of this. There was no, this, like I said earlier, the school of hard knocks.
Yeah.
I learned everything the hard way or through family, or some things not the right way. But it definitely made me who I am, for sure.
So now I guess you get to go when you retire, be that retired guy that goes to their shop and tell them what they're doing wrong, and you need to fix this, and they're gonna be like,
Yep.
Dad, just go get some coffee somewhere.
Yep. That and it's funny right now that they're asking me to be there all the time. They actually just messaged me while I've been on this with you. How's it going? What time are you going to be here? So, but I try to make them do everything on their own. I don't. I'm not that guy that walks up to people and goes, "Hey, my kids have started a shop. Will you give them a break? Will you help them out? Do that?" I don't do any of that. I just,
Cool.
I point. You might want to go talk to that guy, and you might want to talk to that guy, and you might want to talk to that guy. But I'm not going up there and being, "Hey, help my kids out."
Yeah.
I want them to earn it, and they're doing very well at it.
Now, that's a good transition talking about with working and not working and doing other stuff. So you recently took time off work. So how long did you say you're off work for now?
Right now, I'm off till June 1st, but then we're going to reevaluate then again. So um, I guess right now would be a good time to say I have recently found out I got stage 3 prostate cancer. It has moved into some seminal vessels and my lymph nodes in my groin. So March 23rd, I have to have surgery to have all that removed.
So your time
Um,
length off, is that like the doctor's recommendation? Like you need at least
well, right now the till June 1st is what my medical leave of absence is cleared for, 91 days.
okay.
So uh, I'm gonna try to get myself better enough to go back to work, but there's a chance they're not going to get all the cancer out, so I might have to go through radiation afterwards. So that's going to maybe delay my return of things. But we're playing it by ear to see. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, but it's a long road.
Well, I know, I've seen, online you've had some people, step up to help with this because, this is all one big community. The custom automotive, mini truck, whatever industry you call that, is all one big family for the most part. And, we're about the same age. We see a lot of people our age or even younger that now we're getting into that age that people are getting illnesses and cancers and stuff.
Yeah.
And you said before we come on, that's something that kind of blindsided you, that you had no clue that that's what that was. But you're, at stage 3, that seems pretty aggressive if you're that far along. Now, how did you go from a normal day to day to all of a sudden finding that you're at stage 3 cancer?
So I've been having some digestive issues and things not working quite correctly for the last 2 to 3 years. And the doctors kept chalking it up to nerve damage because I have degenerative disc disease in my spine and have 7 herniated discs and da 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 da. So they've just chalked it up to that for all these years. Well, as of the end of last year, I started noticing some blood and things like that I shouldn't be seeing from just nerve damage.
Yeah.
So I kept asking for other opinions, and I'm finally on my third primary care doctor, and he said, "Hey, why we should check your prostate." And I'm like, "But I'm sure they've been checking all that. It's just a blood test, right? A PSA test." Yep. Well,
And
he looked through all my stuff.
in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I'm a guy, things are working,
Yeah,
it's not an issue.
right. And then he comes back and says, "My PSA is elevated." Well, what's it? Why am I just now hearing about this? Well, nobody ever checked my PSA level in these last 3 years of trying to figure out what's going on with me. He checks it, and
You'd think that would be part of a normal blood panel.
you would think, and I totally thought it was. I'd always been asking my doctors, make sure you check me for cancer. I've been in the body shop business my whole life. These chemicals are gonna get a hold of me.
And you're
I
thinking
know that.
lung or something like that
Yeah.
might be.
I really thought I'd be dealing with this in my 60s or 70s. I'm only 52, and they said I've had this 3 years.
How do they
So
determine how long you've had it?
I think by the size and the aggressiveness of it,
Okay.
they just felt that it had been 2 to 3 years I've been dealing with it, because it does have my whole prostate involved and a tumor growing outside of my prostate. So, and they said it is very aggressive, and it's kind of a rarer prostate cancer that you don't see very often.
Is that something that's runs in your family at all?
Not at all.
So
None.
that's probably why you wouldn't think that that would be
Right.
like it
Never.
don't run
It
in my
never.
family either. But it's like, how do you know that you're not going to be the one?
You don't anymore. And as I'm learning more about this, that PSA level is truly just a blood test that you can find out in a matter of minutes. And it used to be you thought you had to go to the doctor, get the finger up the butt, and do all that stuff. Well, it's not. That's the next step.
Which most
You
guys
know,
our age are like, I'm not going to the doctor for that.
that's right.
We put
That's
it
right.
off.
I'm not going for that. I'm not going for that. Well, get the blood test done, and then I'll tell you if you need to go for that. But all along, I thought it was being checked, and all my blood tests and all that stuff, and come to find out, it was never checked ever. And then they check it, and they find cancer, and it's been there for a while.
Like I said, with us being around the same age, this is something that affects a lot of us. To get that notification that, okay, this is what you have, what's the first thing that goes through your mind?
Do I have a death sentence?
That
I
that
mean,
would
that
be my
was
first question.
yeah. That's. I mean, I got kids. I got their a wife. We just watched Phil Gordon go through cancer. I
Fast.
just fast.
And
I
his
just
started with
lost.
digestive issues too.
Right, right. We just lost our dog 3 weeks ago to cancer. So it's scary. You hear that word and you think death sentence. So that was the first thing going through my mind, and then what's the next? What's the long term? Am I gonna be able to do things? Am I gonna be able to work? Am I gonna be able to do this and that? Um, those are all just rough questions that you just pop in your mind.
So how does this process work? So you knew, I guess they scheduled out the surgery, so that gives you time to, get things straight with work and get
Yep.
insurance handled and all that stuff. And then, which I
Got to put
guess,
a living will together, all that stuff.
yeah. Well, after my dad and stepmom passed, that's something that me and my wife went and had the will. You don't think about it until you lose somebody like that don't have that planned. And then it's
Right.
like, I have to get this done because I don't want my kid going through what I had to go through trying to figure things out.
That's correct. And also my wife has been going through a bunch of stuff with her family with cancer. We've lost two of her aunts, her mom and her dad, all in the last 4 years. So um it wasn't something I was expecting, to be honest with you.
So with this diagnosis though, because this kind of helps other people that's not ever dealt with it if it happens to them. What's the game plan from here? So they set you up surgery, I guess a few weeks down the road from the initial deal. And then how does it go from there? Then you're at
Well,
home for a while and
yeah, so I after surgery I'll be home and healing. They think that'll take about 6 weeks, and 6 to 8 weeks. And then after that, as long as I'm healing up good, then I think we'll go into the radiation part of it. And that's going to be 5.5 weeks long, 5 days a week. So that's going to be a long road. And then after that, there's a good chance I have to go through some hormone therapy also, which they said that could last up to 2 years. But that is a pill that I'll take, so hopefully it should not affect my abilities to be normal.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, there is a lot of things with getting your prostate removed that we were talking about. The recovery there is going to be difficult. Your prostate holds your bladder up and just makes for things that men are not used to dealing with very difficult.
Yeah.
So I don't have a death sentence, though. I keep looking at that. I'm just thankful for every day. And the other thing that I wanted to say to you too is I cannot believe you brought this up earlier about we're in a community of mini truckers and all this. I cannot believe the amount of people that have stepped up for me wanting to do fundraisers I got people building a truck to raffle it off, to people that have just sent me donations, to kind words. I never in my wildest dreams would have ever thought any of this would come about like this. Um, It still leaves me speechless.
But I mean, even with insurance, like there's still a huge,
Oh,
and then the time without working, that plays a big role because we're not all retired and have paid off houses and
right.
great grandkids and all that.
No, that is a big part of our concern is I'm not a rich person. I don't have money in the bank. I don't, we have to earn it every day.
I think many
This it
Americans do right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, let's be real. It's a tough time now. This was definitely like a broomstick in my spokes. Um, it changed everything. I'm probably not going to be able to do any shows this year. Maybe camp and drag. Um, I want to do mini nats and stuff like that. Sean Rose is actually doing a fundraiser for me, and he's talking about doing it onto the auction at mini nats too to raise money for me. And then Rodney Sanders is building an S10 square body S10 to match my truck and gonna raffle it off also.
Nice.
I think he's gonna do that at Camp and Drag. So just the amount of people. Sean Rose reached out to me first wanting to do something and it just blew my mind. I didn't know how to take this, how to think. I would never ask anybody for help. But man, we can use it because this is going to be a long road. The pay, like you say, you got disability, short-term disability and leave of absence, but you don't get it all.
Yeah, that's
You
just
know, I
partial.
mean, I'll get 60% of my pay. Well, in today's world, 60% of your pay isn't going to get it.
Hell, 160% of your pay, you ain't gonna get it.
Right, exactly. So, um, with that being said, Sean reached out and wanted to do something, and I told him I had to think about it because I didn't know that I didn't want to seem like I'm sitting here with my hand out because that's not me. But the more I talk to people who have been through the cancer and the different stuff that I'm getting ready to go through, I understand now why there's so many people stepping up because it's very overwhelming, and this is more than I can handle myself. Um, and fortunately, my wife is a full time caregiver, and will be mine. Um, but then she doesn't get paid to do that.
Yeah.
So we're definitely making some sacrifices and trying to figure out the best way to attack this stuff.
My wife would still be like, "Well, if I'm gonna do this, you're gonna pay me, right?"
Right. And I would love to pay her. um,
Be like my daughter. She asked me for something the other day, and I'm like, "What do I get out of it?" And she goes, "Well, I can give you a hug." I was like, "Well, that's not going to cut it in today's economy." She goes, "Okay, I'll even throw in a high five."
there you go. Well, that's like, when somebody does something wrong and they say, sorry, I'm sorry. Well, that doesn't fix it. I
Yep.
appreciate you're sorry, but that does not fix it.
So
So,
if you could give people, any kind of recommendation on this for their life, what advice would you give them when it comes to the whole cancer thing?
well, the one thing I've noticed is I have stayed diligent on the way I feel, which has got me to this point. I knew some things were not right. I knew between me and my wife talking about things, we knew we were not getting the results at the doctors that we were looking for. So we didn't just give up. We kept going to another doctor and there's got to be something wrong. And I could feel things getting worse. Okay. Low stream of pee,
Yeah,
no sexual drive. Things don't work like they should. So that starts to be a mental game also.
for sure.
So you got that on top of the doctors aren't listening, and there's something wrong. So the best thing I could say is listen to your body and don't take no for an answer, and go till you get something that you feel comfortable with. Um, I'm so thankful I'm on my third doctor. I'm pissed I had to get this far,
Well, they
but
say
I'm
that
thankful that somebody listened.
doctors are practicing medicine.
Oh, absolutely. So I went from a doctor older than me to one my age to one young enough to be my kid. The one that found it is the guy that was young enough to be my kid.
You think that's more modern schooling, or do you think it's just
I think I think modern schooling, but I think more of the fact that he listened to me and didn't try to tell me what was wrong with me.
I had a doctor one time I went in and had no clue what was going on, and he goes, "Well, what do you think's wrong?" I lost my shit on him. I'm like, you're the doctor. He wound up kicking me out of that doctor's office, and like
Yeah.
it was like I got escorted out of the office because I'm like, no, I'm in pain. I want to know what's going on.
Yep.
But no,
Yep.
I've had my fair share of that too. But after I said before we come on, when my friends had the prostate cancer deal and how I found now, I make it a point for every year, like my insurance covers a physical a year. So I go, I
Yep.
do the blood work end of every year and do that. And I make sure that the PSAs are something that they check to make sure because,
You have to ask for that PSA test.
yeah,
That is not in your normal blood work. That's not in your normal tests or checks when you go for any of that. That's what I found out. I thought I was getting checked for all that stuff already automatically. Oh no, you have to ask for this.
well, it's like I kept having issues with my back. I thought I'd blew my back out. Like after
Hmm.
I left Pepsi in September, well, January that a couple months later, I wound up having issues with my back. Couldn't stand, couldn't do anything, couldn't figure it out. I went MRIs and CT scans and X-rays, and no one could figure it out. And after the MRI, there's like, oh, we think it's this, and I'm like, so I go home, what you're not supposed to do, and Google it. And I pull it up and it's like, these are your symptoms. And I'm like, I have none of that. But then it says, see also. So I click on it and I'm like, okay, I have none of that. And I go back and it says, see also. And I click it. I'm like, yeah, I have that. And I have that. And I have that. Yeah, 100%. So I called my doctor and said, hey, I think it's this, whatever it was. And I'm like, it says I need a rheumatologist. And my doctor's like, well, there's nothing in your MRI that says that that's what it is. So we're not going to refer you to the
Yeah.
rheumatologist. And I'm like, I don't care what it is. I'm the one paying for it. Just call the
Yep.
stupid doctor and let me check for myself. Come to find out that's what it was. I take a shot once a week. Immediately I know if I've missed that shot because I cannot function.
Yep. Yep. And that's being an advocate for yourself, and that's
Yep.
what everybody's got to do nowadays. Let's be real. We're just a number to these doctors. There's way too many people involved.
I guess if you would have asked for the PSA stuff early on in the test, you probably would have found this sooner. Do you think the outcome would have been any different?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The cancer in my prostate is stage 3 and stage 4. They just call it stage 3 at the moment because it's just right on that verge of between 3 and 4.
Yeah.
I definitely believe the results and outcome and treatments would be way different if I knew about this sooner. I'm getting ready to go through a life-changing surgery. I mean, it's going to change the way of my day-to-day life. So, yeah, I would definitely if I could back up and change some things, I would definitely try to educate myself more on my I thought I was educated on my health. I thought I was educated on what I was asking for and getting, but apparently I was not. I
And
didn't know.
I feel
I didn't know.
I feel early 50s is not what we expect, because our grandparents never got anything till they were older. Like that was,
Yeah, like I'm 20 years ahead of schedule is the way I feel. I had a heart attack just over a year ago.
yeah, I was going to say, didn't you have another big health issue
Yeah.
not long ago? How did they not
And
find it during all of that fiasco?
right. Here's the other thing that's crazy is when I turned 50, they tell you to go ahead and get this heart scan for like $50, or to tell you if you got calcium buildup or anything. It'll just give you it's called a heart scan.
Yeah.
Okay, I did that. Nothing concerning. Everything fine. 1 year almost to the day I had a heart attack. So I did what I was supposed to do. Been going through all my checkup, everything. Nothing was telling me I was getting ready to have a heart attack or nothing. But what I have found out is all these different departments, that's all they worry about.
Yeah.
If you're in there for your heart, they're worried about your heart. If you're in there for your prostate, they're worried about your prostate. I'm still dealing with some other things that I find out are not related to the prostate cancer. So now I have to go back through a bunch of other tests. They said there is a chance that I could have another cancer. It's just not showing up in any scans or anything because they're only looking for prostate cancer.
Like if you could do a scan, do a scan. Like,
I'm like, why are we limiting all this? I mean, and that's just like that blood test. We give blood tests all the time, especially us being diabetic and everything. They're drawing blood all the time.
yeah.
Why would you not check for every blood test you can while you got the blood? Why?
Yep.
It doesn't make any sense to me. Now, maybe somebody can tell me why. Maybe somebody educate me. But from a dummy that works on trucks sitting here, it doesn't make any sense.
Because when you're working on a truck, you're gonna look at the other stuff that's causing issues, not just like
Right.
it's not running. Okay, well we're not going to check the airbag that's leaking while we're here. We're just
Right.
going to check out why it's not running.
It does not make any sense to me.
I think
And
this is the first podcast I've had where we've actually had to dive into the to a medical side like this, but it's kind of eye opening for a lot of people that don't realize that things can take a turn overnight.
very fast. You were speaking of Josh Cyrus with the Blue S10.
Yeah.
He's in the hospital fighting cancer right now.
Oh, is he? I didn't realize
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, he's putting on a big fight right now. Big fight right now.
See,
So,
I didn't realize that because I mean, hell, that feature just come out what a month or so ago, and now he's
yeah. Now he's fighting and it's scary for him.
I guess like I said, this it's not what we expect in a day to day life. So
No, as we get older and the more gray hairs pop up and all that stuff, that is telling us we need to start keeping an eye out and be more aware of things. Um, that is the one thing that I've always dealt with pain because of my back and my shoulders and all this. So I've just always we'll get through to the next
part
day
of
and
life. Yep.
just part of it. Well, sometimes you need to go, all right, maybe I need somebody to check this out.
Yeah.
And us hard-headed guys don't ever do that. But I've lost a ton of friends lately to sicknesses, cancers. I got so many friends fighting it. Me now, it's been a big eye opener. This health we have to keep an eye on, and we can't do these trucks and go do this and have fun with each other if we're sick.
Yep.
And I'm realizing that now. I've taken that all for granted over the last few years. I travel and do what I want when I want. I can't do that now. I can't just jump in the vehicle and go to Mini Nats when it's time, and I can't just jump in the vehicle and go to Bama for Craig's show. And
Yeah.
um, it's unfortunate that I had to come across this life changing event, but hopefully it educated me and is keeping me alive.
Well,
So
we all wish you the best in this process. Enjoy your time between now and surgery time. You said you've taken some time off work, so
yep,
I guess you're going to be able to do some fun things between now and then.
trying the doctor's appointments they have me for all the pre-surgery stuff, all the scan. I mean, there's next week I think I got 5 doctor's appointments.
Oh wow.
So um and on top of all this, I have to go through an erectile dysfunction doctor too because nothing will work. So that's another whole other side of this stuff.
That us at men don't want to either think about or talk about. Like
That's the
that's just
truth right there.
and it's part of life.
Yeah. So that's a meeting next week that I have to go through, talk about penis pumps, to all kinds of stuff that at 52 years old I didn't really think I was going to be dealing with. So, but it shows you there is light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah,
And it's not a train. It's not going to be an easy road. It's not going to be fun, but I get to wake up every day and still see my family and
for
still
sure.
do all the things I want to do. Now I have to slow down and it's not going to be as easy, but I still have that opportunity and not everybody gets that. So I'm thankful for that.
Well, man, I definitely wish you the best through all this. Hopefully we'll see you back out at shows soon. Keep us all updated online on how it goes. Looking forward to seeing Project Indy back at a show soon.
Well, and that was one thing I wanted to let you know is this year, even though I can't make it, my boys are going to be taking the truck
Okay,
and they're planning on taking it to Mini Nats. And then also they're going to try to take it to Bama also.
nice.
So just depending on the funding and all that stuff of how we can make everything happen, but it's a big deal to still have the truck there. And with Sean Rose doing things with Jason Bell for us at Mini Nats, I want to make sure the truck is there and somebody's there at least representing and
Nice.
being thankful. You know, if I could be there, I definitely would be.
Well, like I said, appreciate you, coming on. It was good to tell the story. Make sure you guys go check out episode 77 of OLP to get the rest of the story of Project Indy. And then I guess we'll hopefully see you at a show here soon, man.
Yes, sir. I hope so. And I do appreciate your time and helping me educate some people.
Cool. Well, best of luck, man.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time.